Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll save memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deepest seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll save memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. But time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Okay, good morning. It's Wednesday, I think, a week before paper one, actually. Just a quick reminder. And we're going to do something slightly different today. Welcome, as always, to our revision live stream. Welcome to one and all those who are established members of the Tutor2 Student Collective. There's a wonderful community of passionate, knowledgeable, and ambitious students. And welcome to those who are new to the live stream. If you're with us live, just click subscribe so you can contribute to the chat window. And if you're watching on the replay, just press that pause button anytime you get confused or you need a bit of time to look at a question or take some notes. So we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to look at economic schools of thought today. The idea being that we know that students who have just an awareness of different economic theories, different economists, always do better in their exams, always, because it's part and parcel of being an ambitious student at A-level and IB. So let's make a start. Let's straight away crack on with stuff. Just briefly, I mean, the spec mentions Smith, Ricardo, Marx, Hayek, and Keynes. That would be, thinking about that, would be a cracking, absolutely cracking five-a-side team. Presumably, Marx would be in the midfield, displaying passes equitably around the paddock. Imagine that if you turned up at futsal or something, you found that as a five-a-side team. Now, all of these, of course, are male, and they're all dead, long since dead. Although Keynes lives in my heart, obviously, for obvious reasons. But you'll always be credited if you bring the ideas of other economists into your analysis and evaluation. It's super important. If you, as part of a 25-mark question, if you bring in different schools or different perspectives on an issue, you will get the credit. Certainly when I'm marking a paper, you do. Okay, here we go. So I thought we'd start. Oh yeah, I thought I'd start with a picture. Wouldn't this be a beautiful jigsaw? It'd be an amazing jigsaw, wouldn't it? So you have on the right hand side there King's College, the home of John Maynard Keynes. Jacob says, is this relevant for Excel? Jacob, absolutely this is relevant for Excel. It really is. I'll try and pinpoint some areas in a few minutes. King's College on the right-hand side there, and Clare College on the left-hand side, my college, Clare, beautiful college. That would make a terrific jigsaw reminder that, of course, Keynes is on our list of great economists. Let's make a start then. Here we go. I've got some multiple choice questions for you. I'm super interested, by the way, today to see what people come up with. During periods of downturns, economic downturns, what does Keynesian economics recommend to stimulate demand and boost economic activity? Joshua says, is this relevant for AQA? Joshua, yes, it is relevant for AQA. Now you've got options there. Increasing government spending, reducing interest rates, deregulation, and decreasing direct taxes. What do we think? Now, most people coming in with A, which is interesting. So let's just double check. George and Jacob and Jack and Toby, yes. So Keynesian, again, what I'll try and do in each of these questions is pinpoint areas where you can use schools of thought in your exams. So Keynesians believe that government spending has a higher multiplier effect than tax cuts because people would save some of a tax cut anyway. So labour-intensive infrastructure projects typically have a high fiscal multiplier effect. Keynesians believe that monetary policy is less effective than fiscal policy. Monetary policy less effective than fiscal policy. Number two. By the way, I am super interested in this session. I hope you find it useful. I hope you enjoy this session. It's a different session, isn't it? Which economic theory does Keynes critique by arguing that relying solely on market forces can lead to prolonged periods of unemployment? So which is a classic Keynesian critique, the idea that the labour market would bring about a return to the natural rate of unemployment. A mixture of opinion here. Most people saying C, the other person saying A. Let's double check. Yes, it is indeed C. Classical economics, the classical model assumes flexible wages bring about full employment. Clearly they don't, but that's what they assume. Monetarism, by the way, postdates Keynes. So monetarism, Keynesian is not a critique of monetarism. Keynesianism came first. Question number three. According to Keynesian economics, what happens when interest rates are so low that monetary policy becomes ineffective? In other words, doesn't work in stimulating AD and GDP. Oh, by the way, yeah, some great answers coming through in the chat window. I'd be really interested to see what people's thoughts on these. I've got some great questions for you coming up. So what happens when interest rates are so low that monetary policy becomes ineffective? Nadir and Stefan, Angel and Cash, Jack and Olamide, all getting the right answer, which is the liquidity trap. Again, bit of value added for you. Good example of that would be deflation hit Japan. Of course, they tried negative interest rates to kind of force their way out of a liquidity trap. Of course, Japan has now ended that strategy. Question number four. Supply-side economists advocate for which policies to stimulate growth, which Keynesians critique as primarily benefiting the wealthy. So slightly tortuous wording of the question. Supply-side economists advocate for which policies to stimulate growth. Keynesians critique it as primarily benefiting the wealthy. Most of you got this right. The answer is indeed C. The idea that growth is driven by the supply side growth. Stab Bandit coming in saying that liquidity trap is a great evaluation point in the question on QE. It certainly is. How are we doing? Question number 5. Coming up. Oh yeah, this is my favourite question of all time. I've been teaching like 40 odd years. This is my favourite question ever. In which situation, A, B, C, or D, will the size of the Keynesian multiplier, fiscal multiplier, arising from an increase in deficit-funded government spending of, let's say, 5 billion, likely be highest? In other words, put in layman's terms, when will the Keynesian multiplier be highest? If the government whacks in an extra £5 billion of deficit-funded spending. Sorry, Jack Seaborn was our contributor on the QE liquidity trap point. Now, this is a hard question. So you're looking for the combination which gives the highest multiplier. Oh, shout out to Mrs. Rosewell and Mr. Harris letting us watch this live in class. So a shout out, of course. Thank you, Keeper. Hope you're enjoying this session. It's a different session today. Most people saying B. Let's double check. It is indeed B. Low propensity to import, of course, is part of the multiplier formula. Output gap negative means there's spare capacity for AD to rise. And monetary policy, well, oftentimes deficit funding can lead to crowding out, but not if interest rates are falling at the same time. Fantastic. Great answers. Wow, that was a hard question. Okay, let's move on to the bubble quiz. These are all about economic thought. So the number of answers that are correct can range from nothing, zilch, 0 to all 4. Here we go. Shout out to Mr. Smith for letting Jack from Jack for watching the amazing daily streams. Okay, here we go. Which of these were classical economists? Which of these were classical economists? And your choice for today is Adam Smith, Karl Marx, Milton Friedman, and David Ricardo. What a back four that would be. So which of these are... Oh, Tom Batty has arrived. Sorry I'm late, Geoff. I was devouring a scrumptious 25 marker about the externalities of building an airport. Well, hopefully that will allow your economics to take off, Tom. So Gemma's gone for A and C. Arch has gone for A and D. Jack says C and D. Mystic will talk about cutting out in a second. Harrison just thinks A. Joshua thinks A and D. Here's the answer coming up. It is indeed A and D. Smith and Ricardo are part of the classical school. I don't think we can call Marx a classical economist unless no, we can't. And Friedman was a monetarist, and monetarism is not really classical economics. Shout out to Mrs. Wellings. We are watching in class from Nathan. And a shout out from Josh to Mr. Harris, his economics tutor. Now, this is a great question. Which of these ideas and concepts belong to classical economic thought? I'd be amazing if anybody gets the right answer to this. Your options are free markets, comparative advantage, rational behavior, and the invisible hand. One of my students once handed in an exam paper which had been written completely in invisible ink, so it was quite hard to mark. Well, that's what they claimed anyway. So what do we think? Which of these ideas belong to classical economic thinking? So E-Man thinks ABD. Interesting. Cash thinks ACD. Liam, one of our great economic historians, he thinks it's ACD. What else have we got coming through? Loads of answers. Gemma thinks ACD. Let's have a look at the answer. The answer is, in fact, ABD. Yeah, free markets, comparative advantage, Ricardo, invisible hand, Smith, obviously. Rational behavior is neoclassical, the neoclassical assumption of rational behavior. Built into, if you want a bit of detail, it built into demand and supply curve, Marshallian demand and supply analysis, consumer surplus, all that kind of stuff. Cooper says, can we have a shout out for Tristan Harris for inspiring us young and upcoming economists? Well, we need amazing teachers to teach the current and the next generation. Economics numbers at A-level absolutely surging nationally. And it's in part because of the great teaching that goes on. Which of these are economists of the Keynesian school? Keynesian school. Schumpeter, Engels, Joan Robinson, Dambisa Moyo. What do we think here? So what do we think here? Joseph Schumpeter, Frederick Engels, Joan Robinson, Dambisa Moyo. Which of these were Keynesian school economists? What do we think? Mystic says, are we supposed to know this? These have never been taught. Well, the whole point about today's session, ideally, yes. I mean, I hope that teachers teach economic thinking, but don't worry too much. Just have a go and learn something along the way. Okay, answers coming through. Gemma says, definitely not Engels. Correct, because Engels was Marx's writing partner. Okay, Tom says B and D. Let's have a look. The answer is only C. Schumpeter was Austrian school. I think Schumpeter has a case for being one of the greatest economists of the 20th century. Engels was a Marxist. Dambisa Moyo, well, she's not really a Keynesian. In fact, she's probably a neoclassical, neoliberal with her views on aid. Joan Robinson, the great Joan Robinson, who created the concept of animal spirits. Now, I arrived at Cambridge a year or two before she passed, unfortunately. She was well known for being quite scatty in her old age. Used to walk up and down Grange Road, assailing passers-by. I remember that well. G9 says, was Schumpeter the one who wrote about creative destruction? G9, spot on. In fact, we've got a question on creative destruction in a few minutes. So Takio says, animal spirits coined by Keynes. Well, Keynes, it was Robinson, who was a contemporary of Keynes, who developed the concept of animal spirits and monopolistic competition as well. George says, did you really go to Cambridge? I think we know the answer to that question, George. Oh, I love this one. Which of the following are concepts associated with Keynesian economics? This is a great question. Crowding out, the multiplier effect, the Phillips curve, cyclical unemployment. Which of these concepts are associated with Keynesian economics? The Snack Bandit, one of our legendary contributors, he says BCD. Sheila says ABD. Jack says all of them. Jose Mourinho, amazing when we get celebrity participants. ABD. Alice says BCD. Let's have a look. BCD. Alice, congratulations. That was a tough question. Yeah, the multiplier, Keynesian multiplier, the Phillips curve is a Keynesian concept. So too is cyclical unemployment. Crowding out, of course, is a Keynesian critique idea. The idea of higher borrowing leading to higher interest rates. Keynesians would argue for crowding in rather than crowding out. And a chance there for Liam to go back to his economic history books and just double check. Let's crack on. Here's here we go. I love this question. Which of these statements might be said by a Marxist economist? Which of these statements might be said by a Marxist economist? Competition drives innovation and invention for the social good. Financial markets are inherently unstable in the capitalist economy. Efficiency is higher in a mixed rather than a command economy. All inequality is solely derived from class exploitation. Sky's gone for B and D. Isabel agrees. Stefan's gone for D and B in a quirky little mixture there. George has gone for B and D. Max, B and D. Chukwuemeka has gone for D. Liam gone B and D, our great economic historian. We know that Liam is right up there in terms of his history. This session must be gold dust. Most of you going B and D. Here's the answer. It's only B, actually. B is what's called the Minsky hypothesis. I could hear somebody asking that. The Minsky hypothesis. D, well, of course, the word solely. Marx has a lot to say about gender inequality and other forms of exploitation. It's not solely derived. It might be majority derived from class exploitation, but it's not all derived. B is the Minsky hypothesis. Let's crack on. Here's another multiple choice question. Oh, and bizarrely enough, I've given you the answer. Okay, so the answer to question 6 is D. Maybe the next slide is the question. Let's have a look. So the answer to question 6 is D. Let's try question 7. Thanks, Tom. By the way, there's a lot of love for Liam in the live stream today. Liam, as we know, is a brilliant student. We know that. He supports one of the greatest football teams on the planet, and he's got an offer from Oxford, which he's working hard for. So Liam is one of our great students, but he's having a hard time today. So a bit of love for Liam, please. In question 7, in Hayek's view, what role does the price mechanism play in the allocation of resources in the market economy? What do we think? I just wanted to give you some challenging questions. What do we think? What role does the price mechanism play in the allocation of resources? Hayek, Austrian economist. Difference of his opinions here. Some people saying A, a few people saying B. Most people, I think, saying C. Liam and Stefan and Gemma, Kato and Iman and William. Double check. It is indeed. The whole point about the price mechanism, it's a disaggregated, decentralized network. You know, by the time I've gone to, after this live stream, I'm probably into Harrogate for a cup of coffee and a bit of shopping, as you do. Now, for that to happen, millions of decisions need to have been made by different people, okay, in terms of building roads, organizing transport systems, designing cars, sourcing the coffee. I'll be in Harrogate this afternoon having a great coffee. So the price mechanism, that your decisions, your outcomes are the result of millions of disaggregated decisions, most of which you have no control over. I think Hayek's right, by the way. I think the Hayek, I'm not an Austrian economist, I'm a Keynesian, but I think Hayek is a pretty cool economist because most economics is pretty cool. Question 8. Friedrich Hayek advocated for the free market. He certainly did, arguing that it allocates resources more efficiently than what alternative? G9 saying about the subjective theory of value for anyone who wants to research it. Absolutely right. So Friedrich Hayek. Which system? And the right answer is coming through. A few people saying C. No, I think we probably need to go. C is plausible. But probably B. Hayek favoured a decentralised economy free from government to top-down interventions, including state bailouts. Is this session interesting? I hope it's a different session. Question number 9. 2 more multiple choice to finish with. According to Adam Smith, or as he's known in Germany, Adam Schmidt, what ensures that firms produce goods at the lowest possible cost? So what's the main driver of cost efficiency? According to Adam Smith, I think there's a statue of Adam Smith in Edinburgh, which free market economists pay homage to when they go up to Scotland. Most people saying C. Let's double check. Yeah, it is competition. Firms are motivated to minimise costs to offer goods and services at competitive prices and attract customers. Lucy says, does AQA need this? Yes, actually. I know people are saying, is this on the spec, Geoff? Do I need to know this for the exam? My own view, for what it's worth, which is very little, is that this is really gold dust for exams. It just gives your answer a little extra flavour, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Not just all about drawing cost curves. Do that tomorrow. Question number 10. Thank God for that. I thought the answer was coming up. According to Marxian economists or Marxist economics, what role does capital play in the process of economic growth? Here we go. According to Marxist economists, what role does capital play in the process of growth? Now, a difference of opinion coming here. So people saying D, capital redistributes wealth among workers. Tom has gone for C. Gemma has gone for A. Quite a few people going for C and D here. Oh, Max and Alice and the Snap Bandit and Sky have gone for A. Let's double check. It is. So again, trying to link to different parts of the course. If you get a question on monopsony, if you're an AQA student, a monopsony employer has the potential to extract surplus value from labour. So the old thing is that you spend the first 4 days working for your employer, and then the 5th day you're working for yourself. A modern day equivalent is you spend the first 7 months of the year earning enough money to pay your landlord, and the next 3 months for the government, and the next 2 months for yourself. Great stuff. Okay, so there were 10 multiple choice questions. I've got four little economic thought questions for you, each of which relate to a different school of thought. Let's have a look at these ones. Yeah, by the way, somebody was doing a past multiple choice question paper the other year. The correct answer was C, and they said they wanted half a mark because they were only 1 out. They said it was B, as if, I was so convinced by that I gave them the mark. Outline the importance of expectations in the Keynesian model of aggregate demand. Have a go. Why are expectations important? Let's see what we can come up with. Expectations matter. They really do, particularly if you're a Keynesian economist. So why do expectations matter in the Keynesian model? And Stefan has a terrific answer coming through. Superb answer there from Stefan. Max says, do teachers mark harder than exam boards? Usually, yes. Oscar talks about consumer spending expectations. Oh, dabbing Granny 8077, linking inflation expectations causes the shortened Phillips curve to shift. Wow, that's an amazing answer. So expectations augmented Phillips curve. And George Hurd, one of our great contributors, George, coming in with a point about animal spirits detected. If confidence is high, confidence spreads, consumption increases, increasing AD, and of course consumption is nearly 2/3 of aggregate demand. Jack Seaborn talking about expectations determine the multiplier effect. Improved expectations mean that firms are more likely to invest in capital equipment. Really good stuff. The snack bandit. We can't get through a live stream without highlighting the snack bandit and his favourite theory of Ricardian equivalence. Now, you don't necessarily need this for the A-level exam, but consumers and firms base their current expenditure investments based on anticipated future tax. So if governments are, borrowing money to fund infrastructure, will people spend less because they expect to pay higher taxes in the future? Some absolutely brilliant answers. This question worked beautifully well for me. Here's my answer. Keynesian animal spirits describes the non-rational psychological factors that influence decisions. Expectations can vary a lot from optimism to pessimism. They impact on propensity to spend and save, planned investment, and they really do have a big impact on economic cycles. If you understand expectations and trust and confidence, you can go a long way in macroeconomics. That was certainly drilled into me when I was at Cambridge. Expectations matter. Next question. Can you briefly explain to me in a minute the shape of the Keynesian long and aggregate supply curve? Have a go. Yeah, I think Oscar's right. We've learnt Ricardian equivalence just from the Snap Bandits answers. Okay, can you quickly explain the shape of the Keynesian curve for me in a minute? So there's a little bit of macroeconomics here. Jake, the answer is yes, I did. Toby says it's a hockey stick. Yeah, Toby, I was hoping you'd explain why the curve has that shape rather than what the shape looks like. Ben Roberts has got a good point there about horizontal. Yeah, really good. And Nathan Akaria has a really good short answer there. Bare capacity, bottleneck, full capacity. Now, what Nathan's done there very successfully, I think, is capture it in a beautiful revision note. Okay. So Harbier talks about the shape of the Keynesian curve reflects the economic cycle. It does indeed, Harbier. The first flat part is recession. The curve is down or flat until you move into the kind of the strong recovery boom stage. Jack Seaborn, the curves upwards because as factors of production get closer to full employment, smaller increases in output lead to greater increases in prices. Yeah, diminishing returns kicks in and bottlenecks. Some great answers there. Well done, everybody. Good use of Keynesian theory. Here's my my answer. Oh, sorry, the G9, the Keynesian. Can we have G9? Can we go back to G9's point? If we can find it. Come back to it in a minute. Here we go. The Keynesian S-curve starts perfectly elastic at the wasted resources. Yeah, scarce resources. Output can increase without increasing the price level. Then it slopes upwards as supply bottlenecks occur and ends up vertical. Yeah, that's right. It's all about elasticity of the aggregate supply curve, isn't it? So on the left-hand side there, an increase in demand is non-inflationary. Got plenty of spare capacity. Got a negative output gap. And then the curve starts to slope upwards. Bottlenecks appear, diminishing returns to production perhaps. And eventually you get a point where the elasticity is zero when you reach full capacity. All good stuff. Brilliant answers. Let's try another one. What is meant by laissez-faire economics? Have a go. Let's turn our attention to laissez-faire economics. Yes, as G9 says in the Snap Bandit, where you are on the aggregate supply curve has a big impact on the effectiveness of monetary and fiscal policy. Stefan isn't somebody to waste words. Jake, likewise. Jake has a Nobel Prize in succinctness. Leave it be. Yeah, all good stuff. Letting the price mechanism do its thing. Max talks about the government chill out in their intervention. Max, use that in the exam. That will go down well with the examiners. Stefan says it's one of the Beatles hits. It is indeed. It is indeed. Yeah, no intervention in the free market. I think it ties into the knowledge problem indeed. Imagine if the Beatles had produced a record called, McCartney said, I've got this great song, guys. It's called Laissez-Faire. That would go down really well. By the way, I was once in a band. When I was your age, I was in a band. I was a great musician. I was in a band called the Conkers, and I think it's true to say we had a string of hits. George says, laissez-faire, promote limited fiscal intervention, let the price mechanism signal market conditions. I was also in a band. I left the Conkers and formed my own band called Duvet. And we didn't write our own music, we just did cover versions, including Duvet Know It's Christmas. Classical economist Adam Smith, they've regarded the importance of free markets. The role of government should be limited, protect property rights, enforce legal contracts, maintain the rule of law, and maintain the value of money by keeping inflation low. Now, I thought I'd throw in this question because it's basically on a little sock to those of you who are free market economists. This next one, the final one, I think is really interesting. So here we go. Austrian economists such as Schumpeter believe in the importance of creative destruction. I think this is one of the most interesting concepts you can use in an exam. So can you explain what it means and give me an example? Have a go. So Jasmine, neoclassical economics is the more modern form of classical economics. So associated with the likes of Marshall and Pareto and others. So neoclassical economics was early 20th century, whereas pure classical economics was late 18th century. Oh yeah, we've got one more task to do after this. Jay comes in with a lovely point there. Innovation to replace older technologies. Yeah, often it comes about unexpectedly, doesn't it? Stefan links it beautifully to dynamic efficiency. Mobile phones making house lines, landlines redundant. And this can cause structural unemployment. Great answer there. Ray talks about iPhone cameras revolutionising the camera sector. Kodak, of course, went bust. Some great answers coming through. Conscious of time, everybody, because business will be on my back, so we'll pick out one or two more. So a lot of you talking about dynamic efficiency, innovation. Kimmy says it's when the innovation and invention of the good leads to the destruction of existing markets. So the Dyson bagless vacuum cleaner was certainly a threat to Hoover. And this is the idea, isn't it? It's the kind of it's the creative bit, the innovation bit, the destruction bit. Destroys the market share, revenues and profits of established businesses. So I've gone for the following. It happens with innovations and technologies continue to replace outdated ones. Disruptive forces, existing markets, established businesses and economic structures. So the streaming sector, electric vehicles. Oh yeah, so the next one. So I had a student a few years ago who always used the phrase next generation renewables. And I said to him, well, what on earth does that mean? What do you want about? What's that about? And he said, well, look, if I use the phrase next generation renewables, I don't know what it means myself, but it's the next version of solar panels or the next iteration of whatever, okay, wind turbine technology. Next generation or third generation or fourth generation tells the examiner you probably know more about it than they do. So there we go, next generation renewables versus power supplies. E-commerce, Amazon versus bricks and mortars. And of course, more recently, remote working technologies. Jack says creative destruction is helpful if you're talking about situations where there isn't enough investment. Totally right. So there isn't enough creative destruction needed to drive labour productivity up. And labour productivity is the key factor determining living standards in the long run. But many of you talk about structural unemployment, occupational immobility that comes out of that. Brilliant. One more. Why might a monetarist economist be concerned about quantitative easing by a country's central bank? Have a go. Why might a monetarist economist be concerned about large-scale QE? Max thinks that Dyson is a huge marketing scam, and who am I to disagree? Some good answers coming through. Ben hints about inflation. And Harrison very cleverly brings in the quantity theory, increasing the money supply using the Fisher equation, MV equals PT. Good stuff. Yeah, Isabel has a good point there on inflation. Well done. And Gemma, too much money circulating in the economy, inflationary pressure as the purchasing power decreases. The risk of hyperinflation. I think the key point there, Gemma, is that hyperinflation is extremely rare. I mean, it takes a special combination of factors, nearly always involving some collapse in national output for you to get hyperinflation, but certainly accelerating inflation, including in the States. And Noah, I think Noah wins the award, I think, for today's best point. I mean, there's some great contributions. It leads to a large national debt. Well, in theory it can, depends what the central bank's doing. I mean, it's buying existing debt, not new debt. No, it could buy new debt. Ultra low interest rates can distort the allocation of capital and help keep zombie companies alive. G9, could we use modern monetary theory to evaluate this one? Stephanie Kelton would be applauding you with that answer, G9. Well done. Here's my answer coming up. So the basic idea is that quantitative easing, I mean, hundreds of billions of pounds can lead to inflationary pressure because you're giving the banking sector more liquidity, increasing the money supply. Of course, the higher inflation could destroy real incomes, destabilize the economy. And really crucially, I think QE can distort markets. It does keep interest rates lower than they would otherwise have been. And one of the biggest risks there is you create asset bubbles in property and shares, which in turn creates financial instability. The Snack Bandit raised a point and wanted me to clarify it. I don't know if we can go back to the point that was made on this question, but if not, don't worry. We'll here we go. Yeah, it was used to the freedom for the central bank to independently manage interest rates, since the private sector is unloaded onto the central bank's balance sheet. Partly right. In many ways, in the short term, it increases the freedom of the central bank because QE can be, they can have a direct effect on long-term interest rates, whereas normally the central bank only has an impact on the base rate of interest rather than long-term interest rates in the bond markets. But don't worry about that; that's beyond A level, so that's okay. Tom says you guys make a cute couple. He's suggesting about Snack Bandit and Geoff Riley's economics question and answer sessions. Fantastic. Let's crack on. I've got one more. Oh, I'll just give you. There we go. There's QE. So there has been a bit of unwinding. QE is no longer. That's the cumulative value of QE. We almost got to £1 trillion during the pandemic, but that's now come down a little bit. There, sort of, it's almost QT by stealth. I think they're down to about 800 billion now, but I haven't updated my chart. Okay. Now this is my last. This is super hard. So I just thought I'd throw in 7 more economists. Each has a key idea, or many key ideas. Here's a challenge for you if you choose to accept it. Let's finish with this. I have chosen Richard Easterlin, Simon Kuznets, Kate Raworth, John Nash, Eleanor Ostrom, Richard Thaler, Dick Thaler, and George Akerlof. I'll give you a minute or so on this. Let's see as the answer's coming through. Can you link the number with the economist to the letter, the selected key idea in economic thought? So what do we think? So, for example, Will's gone for 1D. 1D. By the way, Will, that's correct. Excellent. Jasmine's gone for 6B, which is correct. Now, have a go. Take a moment on this one. And when you're ready, let's see who can post in the correct combinations for all 7. What do we think here? We've got Richard Easterlin, Simon Kuznets, Kate Raworth, of course, modern day economist, John Nash, sadly no longer with us, but Eleanor Ostrom, again, died in 2011, I think, Richard Thaler, still with us, and George Akerlof, who's also married to Janet Yellen, who's the chairman of the Fed for the moment. So I'm just looking at, people are posting in. So Noah's gone for 7 answers. Noah's very quick. We can maybe put Noah's answers up there. There we go. What do we think? Do we think Noah's got it? Or would you change a few? I thought it's quite a nice little activity, isn't it? Can you link the economist to their idea? The Snack Bandit's gone for 2G, which is correct. Well done. And what else? We've got 1 or 2 people. Tom says Noah's never wrong. Well, we know how. Yeah, I think 7G. I should have gone for 5G, really, shouldn't I? Never mind. Kimmy's gone for 4A, 2G, and 6B. Okay. And I think Kimmy has and Ollie Riley. Ollie Riley. Where have I heard that name before? Ollie Riley. Surely no relation. 1A, 2G, 3F, 4A, 5C, 6B, 7G. What do we think? The answers are now coming up. Let's double check. It's 1D, 2G, 3F, 4A, 5C, 6B, 7E. I've put the right ideas next to each economist. So I think many of you will have got that correct. Indeed, congratulations. Many of you have. G9, I think, and Max. And Noah, I think, got them right. Oh, the idea behind it is if you just have a view, if you can just quote an economist when you're writing a 25 marker, that gives you perspective, and perspective helps evaluation. Okay. G9 is now having a similar day to Liam, I think, in terms of this kind of topic. Great effort there. Okay. G9 says, no, Geoff, I got 3 and 5 the wrong way round. 3 and 5. Rayworth and Austrian. That's easily done, because, of course, Rayworth and Austrian both have great views. Kimmy says the Cousins curve could also be environmental impacts on growth. Indeed, it could. And Kimmy, it's the same curve, isn't it? You just change the axes. Well, there we go. Well done. Fantastic. Well, we thought we'd do something different today. We thought we'd take economic thought, Keynes, Austrian school, a bit of monetarism, a bit of Marxism. Just thought I'd do something different. And I am super impressed, as always, with the great contributions and the energy and engagement you bring to our sessions. They really are fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for contributing. Hope you found it useful. If you did, consider pressing the like and subscribe button. I think most of you already subscribed because we've got this great team who come together. Now, tomorrow, cost, revenues and profits. Lots of diagrams, lots of calculations ahead of paper 1. And then Friday, we're going to do a session on European economics, which is mainly paper 2, but I think it's worth doing that, isn't it? And then the weekend, ahead of the final weekend of revision, we'll do a paper 1 revision clinic and a walkthrough on Monday. Tuesday, I don't do anything on Tuesday. That's the day for you to revise and get ready and give yourself a great chance. Thank you for joining in. As always, stay healthy, stay happy, stay curious, and see you sometime soon.